Hi everyone, it's Lindy on here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today I thought we'd make a fun little Christmas shadow box card. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we want to do is create our shadow box. So we're going to use the shadow box card dies from Lawn Fawn. And we're going to need these two and then these little snowy borders. And we're going to create this little shadow box here. So for the base of the shadow box, we're going to be using the Lawn Fawn Mermaid cardstock, and this is a 100-pound weight cardstock. And we're going to die cut two of that panel and then one with the frame cut out. And then from this glitter cardstock, this is the sparkle cardstock, and this is called Pixie Dust. We're going to die cut three of those little borders, and you can see that beautiful glitter on the cardstock there. So I'm going to go ahead and run this through my Spellbinders Platinum 6 machine 2 times. And on one of these panels, I'm going to die cut that stitched frame out. And I'm just centering it on that front panel. And I'm going to run that through as well. So we can just set that frame, that insert aside for another project. And now you can see I have all of my pieces cut. And I did cut 3 of those little snowy borders. Now using the Bristol Smooth cardstock, I cut a panel that's 3 inches by 2.5 inches, and that's going to fit on the back of one of those panels of our shadow box. So to create the sky, I'm going to use peacock feathers and chipped sapphire, and these are the Distress Oxide inks. So I'm going to go ahead and apply the peacock feathers all over this panel. And then with the chipped sapphire, I'm going to apply kind of a medium pressure and go about 3/4 of the way up. And then about halfway up, I'm going to apply some extra ink down there at the bottom. And then I'm just going to use my lighter applicator and pull all 3 of those together. So it kind of goes light, medium, and dark. Now using my Distress sprayer, which just has water in it, I'm going to spritz this and then I'm going to blot that off with a paper towel. And that's going to give us a nice spatter effect. Now with the Lawn Fawn Liquid Stardust, which you do want to shake up really well to get that glitter to come up from the bottom there, I'm going to put a little on my glass mat and spritz it with a little bit of water. And then I'm going to go ahead and spatter that all over this cardstock, and it's going to give a beautiful kind of starry night effect. And then I'm going to heat set that very quickly again. Now using my white gesso, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to just add a little bit of that white gesso, spritz it with some water, and spatter that on to give it kind of a snowy night effect. And you could use white acrylic paint here as well, whatever you have, but I happen to have the white gesso on my table, so that's what I'm using here. And I'm just going to quickly spatter that, and then I'm going to heat set that again. So now that I have that done, I'm going to use my Lawn Fawn 1/4 inch double-sided tape to adhere that panel on the back. But first let's fold these panels so that we know where to place that starry sky. So I'm going to fold these right along the score lines, and there are score lines that you can see, and I'm just gently folding the paper back and then using my bone folder to press out the crease. And because this is a 100-pound cardstock, you do just want to gently kind of press it into place at first and then use your bone folder. And that's going to create the little shadow box there. So now that panel is going to sit on the back part of our shadow box. So I'm going to go ahead and attach that now, since it's a lot easier to attach it while the box is unassembled. So I've just placed that tape along the back of this panel. I've removed the backing and I'm going to center it on this back panel. So now I need a little bit of tape along this tab, both tabs, but we're going to do this one first here. And you just want to make sure that you do have it end to end. Then I'm going to remove the backing. I'm just going to line these two up so that they're nice and straight, and I'm going to attach these together. Now before I attach that other tab, I'm just going to put the adhesive on there. But before we completely assemble this, we want to put our little snowy borders in here. So I've got the 3 borders that we have. One is for the front, so I'm going to set it aside there up at the top. And then following the score lines on these other 2, I'm going to go ahead and fold them. I'm going to fold these little tabs over. And that's going to sit right inside our shadow box. And I want to bring it up a little bit because this other one here is going to be right on the front of our box. So I kind of want them to go at different heights as you go further back to get a little bit higher. But I just want to make sure that it looks good from the front. So I'm going to go ahead and place a little bit of tape on each of the tabs on both of these panels. And again, you want to make sure you go end to end, so I'm just cutting away any excess tape that I have here. And then I'm going to remove the backing just from one side, from the left side, and then I'm going to position it, just double checking that again. I'm just going to tape that into place. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the next one here, and I'm going to place it a little further away from that first one and up a little bit higher there. Just want to make sure that that gap doesn't show on the bottom. So I'm just checking that there. Then I'm going to make sure these are nice and straight. I'm going to remove the backing from the tape. And then I'm just going to close this side. I'm just going to fold it over, and that'll pick up that other tab. And you can see that there. Now I can go ahead and close up this box. So I'm removing the backing there. I'm laying it flat and lining it up. And then I'm just going to tape this down. And you can see that creates our cute little shadow box. Now for this panel on the front, the snowy border, I'm just bending those tabs back so I know where to cut that. I'm just cutting these tabs right off. And that panel is going to sit right on the front of our shadow box. So I'm placing tape along the bottom and the 2 sides only because I don't want tape on the back of it. I just want it where it's going to rest right along that frame. So I've removed the backing there, and now I'm just going to set that in place. And you can see that up close there. So now what I want to do is use this mini wreath, and we're going to die cut 2 of the wreath and 1 of the bow. And we're using the Cardstock Holiday Sparkle Cardstock and the Cilantro Cardstock to do our die cutting. So the bow will be out of the red sparkle paper and 2 of the wreaths out of the green cardstock. And I'm using my stylus tool and my mat, my foam mat here, to just sculpt these a little bit, just to pop them up a little bit. Now with the Pine Needles Distress Oxide ink, I'm going to go ahead and apply a little bit of ink all the way around the edges, just to add a little bit of color here. And I did a little bit on the inside there of the leaves as well. And then I'm going to put glue all the way around this wreath and attach these 2 together. Now to assemble the bow, you just want to put a little dot of glue right there in the middle on the front, and then wrap this piece all the way around back to the front there. And then I'm just going to clamp it with my tweezers and just let that dry. And if you have any excess glue there, you can just remove it with your pick tool or with your fingers there. And then the little tails on the bow, I just put a little dot of glue on the center there. And then I'm just going to line these up and glue these 2 together. And again, I'm going to clamp these together. And I'll let that set and dry. And that's going to go right on our wreath there. So I'm just going to place a little dab of glue now that everything is dry. And then I'm just going to glue the bow on the front of my wreath here. So now I wanted to create a string of lights as well. So I've got this string of lights here, the kind of like random ones, and then the little overlays, the one with the little reflection. And this is the mini string of lights die set. And I'm going to go ahead and place some glue on here. And I did die cut the string of lights from Bristol Smooth cardstock, and I went back to the red sparkle cardstock for the lights, and you can see how pretty those are. So I only need 4 of the lights for the front of this box, so I'm going to set that other piece aside for another project. Now for the stamps, I'm going to use the 3 ducks there, and this is from the Rub-a-Dub-Dub stamp set. And then from this set, I'm using the tree and the little candle, and this is the Christmas Dreams set. And then from this set, I'm going to be using the barn and the fence from the Hey There stamp set. And then I want the Santa and the sleigh from the Ready Set Snow set. So I'm using my VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and I'm going to go ahead and ink these up. And I've placed these in my Misty Stamp Positioner. And you'll see why here in a second. That did not stamp. The Santa sleigh did not completely stamp because it is such a solid image. So I went ahead and inked it up again, and I'm able to stamp that a second time and get a nice sharp image there. And then I need 2 more of those little candles. So off camera, I went ahead and stamped 2 more of those. Now I'm going to grab all the coordinating dies and run these through my Sizzix Sidekick machine. And now that I have everything die cut, you can see there I have all my little pieces. So for the coloring, I'm going to be using the Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens. And here I'm using the wine red and the black. And I'm going to color in all the little balls on this garland here. So I'm starting off with the red, adding a little bit of that black, and then I'm going to use the blender pen from the Zig Clean Color Real Brush pen collection, and I'm just going to blend those together. Now these are a water-based pen with a detailer tip, and very easy to blend together, but you can also use a water brush to blend these as well. But I do find on these tiny little images that the blender pen works the best. Or actually, not the best, but just easier to use, I find. So now using light blue and turquoise green, I'm going to go ahead and color a few more of these little balls. And I'm using the same technique, kind of keeping that darker color down towards the bottom and then pulling it up towards the top. Now with the blender pen, you want to make sure that you clean it off between colors. And to clean it, you just scribble it on a piece of scrap paper until it goes clear. And now I'm using lemon yellow and bright yellow to do the star on the top of the tree and some more of those little balls. And again, just checking to make sure my blender pen is clean. And then I'm just going to blend that together. And for the star, I just put that darker color around the edges and pulled into the center. Now using light green and deep green, I'm going to go ahead and color in my tree. So I'm just kind of tucking that lighter color in up underneath all these little areas here. Then I'm going to add a little bit of that darker green, not as far down as I did the light green. And then again, I'm just going to pull down. So I'm kind of grabbing that color, lifting the pen and pulling it down. And you can go back and add a little bit more of that deep green up underneath there if you want a little bit more of a shadow under there. And so I did the whole tree the same exact way. Now with the green gray, I'm just going to do the base of that little tree topper there. With mid-brown and oatmeal, I'm going to do the trunk of the tree. And I'm going to keep that darker color right up under the tree there. Now I'm using my Nuvo Crystal Glaze to add some clear glaze to all of these little balls and the star on the top of the tree. And that's going to give it a nice clear finish, like a glossy finish. So to do the fence, I'm using those exact same 2 colors that I used to do the trunk of the tree. And then I'm just going to blend that and give a little bit of shadow on the left side of those posts there. Now using those same 2 browns again, I'm going to be doing the roof on the house. and a little part of the door here. So I'm just adding that darker color towards the sides of the roof, and then I'm pulling it up towards the top. So I'm keeping the top of the roof the lightest. And then for these little panels on the door, I just put it sort of in the V there, and then I'm pulling it out towards the edges. With the light brown, I'm going to do the hay, and I'm putting a little bit of that darker color at the top of the hay and then pulling it down. And now I'm going to be using my dark gray here, and I'm going to just add a little bit more depth to that door there. With the wine red, I'm going to do the barn. And then I'm going to be adding a little bit of the black. I just wanted the barn to look a little bit more aged, give it kind of an older look. So I'm kind of blending these together, and you do want to just add just a tiny bit of the black, because you can always add more. And as I always say, the black a little bit goes a long, long way. So you'll see that I did feel like I added maybe a hair too much black. So I'm going to come back in with the red here in a second and just bring back a little bit more of that red color. And there you see I'm just removing some color from the right side there. And to remove color, you just scribble right on your image there and just pull the color off and dab it on the scrap paper, and then just keep going back and forth and grabbing that color. Now there you can see I added a little bit more of that darker red. So to do the little ducks, I'm going to use those same two browns again. And I'm just kind of adding that darker color around the top and the sides there, and then down towards the bottom, and then I'm just going to pull that all over towards the left side here. And if you get too much color again, just clean that brush off. And here I thought I needed a little bit more of that darker color. Now to do the little beak, I'm using the two yellows that we used before to do the tree topper. And I'm just going to do a little bit of the darker color up at the top of the beak and pull it down, and then the same thing here on his little feet. So these are really easy to color in. And I'm going back to the Nouveau Crystal Glaze, and I'm going to add a little glaze to their beaks. So I colored all of those in the exact same way. Now for the little candles, I'm just using those same two yellows again and the wine red that we used before, and I'm just putting the red at the base of the candle and pulling up towards the top. And then going back to the dark gray, I'm adding a little to each side of the base and pulling towards the center. And I did the same thing for all three, and I'm also adding a little bit of glitter from the Lawn Fawn glitter pen. Now using the birch tree dies and that little cardinal, I'm going to die cut 3 of these. And that's out of the Bristol Smooth cardstock. So I'm going to be using wine red, black, and light brown. And I did a little bit of light brown for the beak, then the black, and I'm just kind of adding just little tiny bit of that black, and then I'm going to add the red sort of towards the top of the cardinal, and then I'm going to pull that down, and I'm trying not to touch that black color. And I'm cleaning off my pen because I want this to get very light down in the tummy area. So I'm just taking any extra red off my pen there, and you can see that up close. So now I'm going to glue all 3 of these together, and this is just going to create a little bit of a thicker embellishment here. So I'm just going to put glue on those and stack those up and glue those together. So I'm just going to spend a minute here just making sure those are lined up properly. Now going back to my shadow box, I'm going to go ahead and attach my Santa sleigh. And then I'm putting a little glue down at the bottom of the barn here, and I'm going to attach that to the back, the snowy border on the back here. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the fence. And you see our little scene is starting to come together. I just love this. And now for the little cardinal, I'm going to have that sitting right on the fence there, right at the top of the fence. And now for the tree, I thought because it's going to be on the front, I would die cut a second panel of just the tree. So I went back to those dies and I glued those two together just to make this a little bit thicker. Then I'm adding my glue just on that front panel of the shadow box here, and I'm going to glue that in place. Now for the little duck, you can see that this wreath fits right over his head here. And I just think this is so cute. So I'm going to glue that wreath right on the back of his little head, and then I'm going to attach this to the front of the box. So you do want to be careful where you're putting the glue. Just down towards the bottom of the duck and off to the right side of that wreath there. Now I'm going to add these other two little ducks. Again, just adding glue towards the bottom of the duck here. And then I'm going to add these little candles. I thought they would look kind of like little luminaries on the ground leading up to the Christmas tree. So I added a little bit of Scotch foam mounting tape to the back of each of these, and I'm just going to pop these up. And now for the string of lights, I wanted to make it look like that was tucked in behind. So I'm just putting a little glue there and tucking it kind of behind that frame. And then I'm going to attach this one to the front. And you do have to hold this down for a minute or two just to make sure it sets up. And then I'm going to add a little bit of glue behind each of those lights just to hold it in place. And so there you can see we have our completed shadow box, our beautiful sky. I just love these little projects. I think these little scenes are so much fun. And for some reason I had in my head forever about putting that wreath over the head of that little duck. I don't know why, but I just thought it would be so cute. And this will lie flat, but since we've added so much dimension to the front, you may want to get a little bit larger size envelope because it is a little bulky. And as always, all the supplies I used in today's video are listed below, and they're also listed on my blog. So here's the completed project, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to visit me at pinkwhisperdesigns.com. Thank you so much, and have a great day. Bye-bye.